It was just supposed to be a chill weekend. I had finally finished cleaning up my backyard, got the pool looking crystal clear, and was ready to enjoy some peace. But of course, in every neighborhood, there's always that one person. And for us, it's the infamous HOA Karen. She's the kind of neighbor who thinks the entire community is her personal kingdom. You mow your lawn a day late, she writes a notice. You park slightly crooked, she snaps a photo. But what she did this time? It honestly blew my mind. So picture this. I'm relaxing by the pool, drink in hand, finally enjoying some alone time, when Karen struts up to my fence like she owns the place. Without even saying hello, she starts demanding I let her and a bunch of people use my private pool for her grandkid's birthday party. Not ask, demand, like it was her right. And when I told her no, she acted like I'd just insulted the queen. She threw a fit on the spot, shouting about community spirit and how I was letting down the neighborhood. I tried to walk away, but she kept pushing. Then she started threatening to report me to the HOA, saying I was wasting a community resource. A resource I paid for, built, and maintained. That's when I decided I'd had enough. I drained the pool the very next day. Yep, every last drop. If she couldn't respect boundaries, then there would be no pool to argue over. But I didn't expect what happened next. Just as I thought things were quieting down, I heard sirens. She actually called the cops on me, over my own pool. And that's where everything took a wild turn you won't believe. Because what happened when the cops showed up? Well, you're gonna want to hear this. The sound of sirens honestly caught me off guard. For a second, I thought maybe something serious had happened in the neighborhood. But no, it was for me. 2 police cars rolled up and parked right in front of my driveway. I was standing in the backyard, half expecting it to be a joke. But when the officers came through the side gate with Karen trailing behind them, arms crossed and that smug look on her face, I realized she'd actually called them over the pool situation. Now here's the thing. I wasn't panicking, but I was confused. I mean, it's my property. I paid for the pool installation. I maintain it. And I sure as heck didn't sign up to be the community party planner. But Karen started talking before I could even say a word, spinning this wild story about how I drained the pool out of spite, how I'd endangered the children, and how I was violating some imaginary HOA rule about shared enjoyment spaces. One of the officers looked at me and raised an eyebrow, like even he was trying to figure out what in the world she was talking about. I calmly explained that the pool was completely private, not part of any shared community area, and that I had every right to drain it if I wanted. But Karen wouldn't let it go. She started throwing in claims about community expectations and said she had already emailed the HOA board to take action against me. At that point, I could see one of the officers was just trying not to laugh. The other one looked like he was stuck mediating a playground fight. But before they could really respond, Karen dropped something else. She said this wasn't over, that she was going to take this higher. And honestly, that's when things really started spiraling. After the cops left without taking any action, because honestly, there was nothing they could do, Karen stormed off, red-faced and muttering something about legal consequences. I figured that would be the end of it. But oh no, that was just the beginning. The next morning, I found a letter taped to my front door. It was from the HOA. Apparently, Karen had filed a formal complaint claiming I was creating a hostile environment in the neighborhood. According to her, draining my pool was a malicious act that went against the spirit of community cohesion. I couldn't believe it. A hostile environment for protecting my own space? I decided to attend the next HOA meeting to clear things up directly. What I didn't expect was for Karen to bring backup. 2 other neighbors showed up, ones I'd barely talked to before, and suddenly they were nodding along with everything she said. One of them even claimed their grandkids were excited for the pool party, and now they were emotionally disappointed. I sat there stunned, realizing Karen was twisting the whole story into a community issue instead of a personal boundary being crossed. But here's where it got even messier. Another neighbor, Greg, who lives across the street and keeps to himself, stood up and backed me. He said he saw the whole thing and that Karen was the one who had crossed the line. He even said this wasn't the first time she's tried to use people's yards or amenities like they were public spaces. That's when the room split. Some neighbors sided with me, saying property lines are property lines. Others started mumbling about sharing for the good of the community. The tension in that room was thick. The board didn't make any decisions right away, but Karen gave me a look that made one thing clear. She wasn't backing down. And from that point on, everything in the neighborhood started to shift. After that heated HOA meeting, things in the neighborhood took a weird turn. It felt like every time I stepped outside, someone was watching. Karen had clearly rallied a few people to her side, and suddenly I started getting passive-aggressive comments from neighbors I barely knew. Stuff like, "Oh, still no water in that pool?" Or, "Some of us were really hoping the kids could cool off this summer." It was subtle, but it was constant. I tried to shrug it off, but the vibe around my own home didn't feel the same anymore. Then came the anonymous notes. One showed up in my mailbox saying, "This neighborhood used to be about community. Shame." Another was tucked under my windshield wiper, calling me selfish. I had no proof, but I knew exactly who was behind it. Karen wasn't just upset anymore. She was campaigning, and it didn't stop there. A few days later, I caught someone in my backyard, literally inside my yard. I had cameras set up, so when I checked the footage, it was one of Karen's so-called supporters walking around the drained pool, taking photos. I confronted him, and he mumbled something about documenting violations. I asked him what rule he thought I broke, but he just walked off. I sent the footage to the HOA board and asked them if this was how neighborly disputes were going to be handled now. But instead of backing off, Karen doubled down. I got a letter saying the board was reviewing complaints of misuse of property, and they were scheduling a vote to decide whether my pool should be designated for limited community access. That's when I realized this wasn't just about a party anymore. Karen was trying to take control of my private property. And with a few people siding with her, I didn't know which way this would go. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking, if they really try to force this through, what was I supposed to do next? The next morning, before Diane could get ahead of the truth, I printed out everything: copies of the land deed, the developer's original letter, and screenshots from the neighborhood group chat showing residents already piecing things together. Then I sent it all in one big email to the entire HOA mailing list, subject line, "Who really owns the pool?" Within minutes, my phone was buzzing nonstop. Some people were shocked, others furious, mostly at Diane. I just sat back and watched the truth finally take hold. That afternoon, a group of residents marched down to the HOA office, demanding an emergency vote to remove Diane as board president. Greg, to his credit, stood by their side. Diane tried to fight it, but with the documents now public and neighbors turning on her, she had no ground to stand on. She resigned on the spot, blaming miscommunication and administrative errors. But no one bought it. The board voted to cancel the smear letter immediately, and I was cleared of all false accusations. But just when it seemed everything had settled, the twist came. A quiet, elderly neighbor who'd lived here long before most of us, Mrs. Jensen, reached out. She said the land I'd bought wasn't just where the pool sat. It extended beyond that, including the small greenbelt area the HOA used for their monthly meetings and summer BBQs. That land had never been transferred either. Somehow in my purchase, I'd acquired both plots, and no one noticed. So now, with the HOA scrambling to rewrite their policies and neighbors suddenly being very friendly, I stood there holding the rights to every bit of common space they once used against me. I wasn't petty, but I wasn't going to let them forget it either. Let's just say the next HOA meeting was held in a very different location, and the sign at the pool gate now reads, "Private property. Access by permission only." After Kai, the dust settled. Life in the neighborhood slowly returned to normal. Well, a new kind of normal. With Diane gone and the HOA under new leadership, things got a lot quieter. The new board, led by Greg, took a more balanced and respectful approach. They started actually listening to residents, reviewing outdated policies, and, most importantly, learning from the mess they'd just come out of. As for the community pool, I decided not to be spiteful. I reopened it to everyone under a simple agreement. Respect my property, and everyone's welcome. No more fines, no more drama. Neighbors who once avoided eye contact started waving again. Some even apologized for believing the rumors Diane had spread. Mrs. Jensen invited me over for coffee and thanked me for protecting the area's real history. It felt good to know I hadn't just won a battle. I'd helped reset the balance in a place where power had been misused for too long. The pool that started it all? It's still there, and every weekend, my kids and their friends laugh and splash around like nothing ever happened. That's how it should have always been. I didn't go into this wanting a fight, but sometimes standing up for what's right means being willing to challenge people who think they can't be challenged. So, if you ever find yourself dealing with a nightmare HOA or someone trying to push you around with rules that only seem to apply to you, do your homework. Look deeper. You might be surprised at what you uncover. And who knows, you might end up owning the land under their feet. Literally. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy stories where the underdog flips the script. See you in the next one.